My client for the job I just shot said, if given the option between a Raptor and the Burano, go for the Burano. Does this camera offer the secret sauce that make it 4 times more expensive than an FX6? So here I am, head on camera, not where I normally like it to be as the person who's normally on the other side pressing record, but I'm gonna do a little video on my recent experiences with the Sony Burano, which I was lucky enough to use on a shoot this week. The Sony Burano is a camera that me and other DPs, camera operators, etc. that I work with were pretty excited to hear about when it was announced, but it's also a bit of a funny one. At the price point and with the resolution it offers, it's a bit strange because the target market, it says it's for documentary, TV shows, things like that, is an area of the market not really known for budgets or wanting high resolution footage. And I'm just talking about the market that I know. So in Australia, if you're shooting for people like the ABC, SBS, and other networks, I know for me it's been a pretty interesting realization getting to work on documentaries and films that are ending up on TV in recent years. Just that the budget and the amount of crew are not what you'd think. I recently talked to someone who was the subject of a ABC Australian Story episode, and it was a 2-person crew that came out to do the interview. A producer/director and a DOP who was running multiple cameras, audio and lighting. And I would guess they were shooting on something like an FX6 or a Canon C-series in a nice edit-friendly 4K file that would then be delivered in 1080. And I guess that kind of sums up how things work and that I've seen. I mean, I've been out on productions shooting 1080p on my Red Komodo for international shows. Even recently on this job that I've been on, there was one day that I shot on 1080p using the Burano. So, you know, it's something to keep in mind because everyone shares around these kind of Netflix delivery requirement documents and things like that. And I think maybe get the wrong idea of what networks are generally after. So, you know, that particular document that you may or may not have seen, that's for Netflix original productions. So things that they are funding and producing from the early stages, not for content that they're buying after the fact, which in most cases is probably pretty run-of-the-mill 4K QuickTime file or something like that. It's interesting that with this camera, they're saying this is for documentary shooters. And, you know, I'll tell you 2 things that make that maybe not the case. No networks or production companies I've shot for would want 8K RAW files. And also the price is probably not something you'd be able to charge for on top of your rental rate. In Australia, it's over 40 grand. So you would want to be charging, just say, an extra $500 on top of your rate for using this camera every time it went out to make that a good investment. I know a lot of my clients wouldn't pay that, depending on the job, but not day in, day out, being able to add that on. So I'll talk through my experiences on the shoot I've just used it for. So I was shooting a story on a Boxer, which will be playing on ESPN in the States, worldwide I'd imagine. I shot Burano for ACAM, and on the master interview day, I got another 2 Sonys, rented an FX9 and used my A7S III as the third camera, which worked really well. So what did I like and what didn't I like from my experience using the camera? The in-camera stabilization, amazing. It's really good, especially having a heavy camera on an easy rig. Yeah, it just worked really well. I didn't have any experiences where I saw anything strange. Maybe sometimes if it's static and it's sitting on something, you might see the sensor kind of trying to do this a little bit, but generally probably only saw good things from using the stabilization. Secondly, the autofocus. So for this shoot, I used a set of 3 Sony zoom lenses, which were pretty cheap to rent, a 16-35, a 24-70, and a 70-200. And at times I used a bit of Pro Mist on the front of those to soften them a bit, but I mean, it more or less meant that I was just able to get a lot more usable shots in the scenario. Really getting the hang of the Sony autofocus system is a really efficient way to shoot. It locks onto faces, you get used to kind of toggling the autofocus on and off, tapping the screen to track things, all that kind of stuff. You really get a feel for it, and for run and gun documentary, it's pretty hard to beat. Especially, you know, in the scenario I was just in, this boxer, we're having to work around his schedule, so we're shooting actual training situations, his actual training. So you'd get an hour and a half with him and just try to capture everything. I think I definitely got a lot more shots through using the autofocus and having that in-camera stabilization. What else did I like? I like the image. Can't use the footage from the actual shoot, but while I had the camera, I was able to do some of my own tests as well. Here's some stuff I shot down at Bondi Beach on a nice afternoon. So now I'll talk a little bit about what I didn't like about the camera. I don't love the lens mount. They've got this locking E-mount, which sounds good in theory, but it's just kind of shitty compared to a PL mount, or for example, the red locking EF mounts just work so much better. Good in theory, but just felt really annoying to use, like you're pushing a lens right into the sensor kind of thing. Didn't love that. The menu system, look, it's gotten better with some of the quick menus it has, but still compared to the Komodo, there was just a few things that were kind of annoying. Like if you're outputting in 4K to a monitor, it won't let you send a LUT. Big old menu, which if you've used Sony a bit, you can use pretty quick. It's getting better. The quick menus make a difference, but I still find the new generation of Reds, like the Komodos and the Raptors, are doing a lot better with their menu system. And then also the price. Does this camera offer the secret sauce that make it 4 times more expensive than an FX6? The jury's still out on that. It really just depends what type of work you do. If you think you're in the market for a Burano and that your clients are gonna love it and be happy to pay more for it, then yeah, it's pretty good. But for the average person, small production companies, clients maybe not being too camera specific, you know, is it gonna add a big X factor to your images? Probably not. Shoot it well on the FX6 or a Blackmagic Pocket or any of the other kind of 5 to 10 grand options and you're going to be killing it. I don't think this is going to give you that much extra edge that it makes it worth dropping such a big amount of money. And also the rental price, I was given a really great intro price through Rent-A-Cam in Sydney, who are doing a cracker of a deal. It'll probably go up a touch, but as long as it doesn't go up too much, I think it's going to be a really good rental option. And to also give you some industry context, my client for the job I just shot said, if given the option between a Raptor and the Burano, go for the Burano. And Burano ended up coming in cheaper. And yeah, I guess that just shows that Sony has a lot of trust out there in the TV and doco market at the moment because of how good the FX6, 9, etc. has been, and also how much the Venice has been adapted in features, commercials, music videos, things like that. So I'm keen to hopefully use it some more. Will I buy one? Not at this point, but if the work demands it, sure, I'll look into it. It's at a good stage of the cycle to potentially buy one because it only just came out, but it's a bit of a funny one to juggle as to whether it makes financial sense to actually buy one instead of just renting. Anyway, hope you liked this. There's a lot more videos out there on the technical side of things, but I just wanted to keep this a bit more practical and through the perspective of a working owner-operator. Cheers, guys.